courtship anymore. That's a term we think is old-fashioned. It shouldn't be old-fashioned. A courtship ought to precede dating. You want to know why? Because a courtship comes after friendship. That's after you know one another. And then you court one another because you think this is a nice person to be with. And then you should only date someone who you can see as a husband or a wife. You shouldn't even date someone that you don't see as a husband or a wife. Otherwise, you're wasting your time and their time. Because we should only be doing that which sanctifies us and that which is pleasing in God's sight. And as a matter of fact, brothers and sisters, if we're honest, in this day and age, you don't know what you might get. So I would encourage you to do a background check. You better get you need to make him have an HIV test. I don't care what you need to do. You got to protect yourself. You get a background check. Make sure you know who he is, who she is. You don't know how many cases they caught. They might have just been released from prison yesterday. Took you on a date tonight. You don't know that they just got out of jail for child molestation, just got out of jail for spousal abuse. You may not know that they're married. Oh, I wish I had somebody. You got to know who you're dealing with. And that's why God forbid fornication, because fornication clouds our judgment. A whole lot of times we're caught up in the moment, and fornication and sex clouds our judgment. You don't even see their faults until it's too late, because now you've been caught up. There are a whole lot of words I can use, but I won't use them. But when you're caught up, it clouds your judgment. And so, brother, you thought she was Halle Berry. It turned out to be Chuck Berry, because your judgment was clouded. You failed to see the faults. They were there all along. And you know what happens? We get married, and I see this all the time. And when I deal with couples in counseling, oftentimes the couple will be upset with one another, and they'll bring up an issue. Well, he's this way, or he or she's that way. And I'll always ask the question, were they that way before you married them? Well, yeah. Then it's no surprise. The warning signs were there. The flags were there. You just didn't see them then, because perhaps your judgment was clouded. And so we have to make sure we know what we're getting into. And that's what Paul says. It's better to marry the right person than to burn in our desires. And we also have to be realistic in our expectations. Can I move back to the single brothers and sisters? Sometimes we have to make sure that our expectations and standards are realistic. Maybe you're not married because your standards are just too high. You want perfection when you're not perfect yourself. You want a brother to walk on water. You want him to heal the sick. You want him to give sight to the blind. You want the sister to levitate from the ground. Oh, you're looking for Jesus. But you have to be realistic in your expectations. It's all right to have standards, and especially to young people and to young sisters. It appalls me to see the low standards that some of our young sisters have. You'll allow a little knucklehead brother to talk to you any kind of way. No, if you're a child of God and you're a queen, you got to make sure that no brother can step to you like a peasant. If you want a queen, you got to be a king. If you want a king, you got to make sure you're a queen. We have to make sure that we have some high standards. And then Paul goes on to say in verses 26 and 27, I suppose therefore that this is good because of the present distress, that it is good for a man to remain as he is. Are you bound to a wife? Do not seek to be loosed. Are you loosed from a wife? Do not seek a wife. And basically what Paul is saying here is that in light of the present distress of the world, and in light of the turbulent times ahead, it may be best in your search for sanctification to just remain as you are. In other words, Paul is saying, are you single? Maybe it's best just to stay single. Are you married? Maybe it's just best to stay married. Now, he's not saying which you should do, but he's simply saying whatever is best to express your sanctification, if you can best serve God while you're single, then remain single. If you can best serve God in your marriage, then remain married. And Paul says this in context to serving God as the central focus of satisfaction and sanctification. See, we can be satisfied when we're first satisfied